appreciated. Let's go ahead and first talk about rule-governed behavior, one of my favorite topics. So the definition of rule-governed behavior is actually pretty simple. It's kind of like a cheater definition. It's like using all the words in the actual term, but it's behavior that is under the control of a rule. So let's talk about like what a rule is. Anybody here in Zoom want to try that definition out? What is a rule? And if you are in Zoom, I am going to be paying most attention to YouTube chat. So if you could please use that. All right, nobody brave here, so let's go ahead and talk about rule. So what a rule is a description of a behavioral contingency. And if we're to break down what a behavioral contingency, what we're looking at is that a relationship between an antecedent, a behavior, and a consequence. All right, sweet. So let's go ahead and break this down. Let's talk about like what makes a rule effective. So rules are most effective when they describe outcomes that are both probable and powerful. So what we mean by probable is that it's likely to happen. And powerful means is like a serious effect. It's gonna like change behavior or maybe your life. And it really depends on just these two factors. So let's go ahead and look at a couple rules. So here's an example. So if I go swim in the ocean, I will get bit by a shark. So let's break down how probable and powerful this is. So if one thing I want to point out here is that when we're talking about our probability, this is all depends on belief in the rule. So kind of a little bit mentalistic, but this belief is still like derived from previous behavioral history. So let's go back to my shark example. So my rule, let's just say hypothetically, I'm really scared of going in the ocean and getting bit by a shark. So in my head, I'm thinking like, if I go on the ocean, like it's gonna happen. And like, I'm just not gonna do that. So and then the consequence is really powerful too. Like if you get bit by a shark, like that's a pretty good chance, like at least a serious injury and a hospital visit, but maybe even death. So this is a really powerful consequence as well. So this actually makes this, if there is strong belief in this rule, then it will be effective at suppressing ocean swimming behavior. So it's a really powerful rule because it's a big consequence, death or serious injury, and my belief is that's really probable to happen. But if we have like somebody who's more realistic, let's just say in reality, shark attacks on humans are very rare, and I don't believe that this is likely. Then this rule would have little to no effect on your ocean swimming behavior. Cool. So usually one of the things that is cool about rules is that rules can control behavior without having the behavior to occur or contact the consequences of the behavior. So, back to my shark example, like, it's not like I went swimming and got bit by a shark, and that's what's making me scared of swimming in the ocean. It's just that I know that this is a chance to happen, and if I think it's a really big chance, then I'm not going to go to swim in the ocean because I don't want to get bit. That would suck. So yeah, Loki Lane here is asking a question. So like, is a stop sign a rule? So a stop sign might be paired with a rule. So the rule might be is like if I do not hit the brakes here, there is a chance of me getting in an accident. But really, like, the stop sign itself might not be enough for that. So it might just be like it might be like stop sign plus context that leads to this rule. So if it's like a really busy street going on and you see a stop sign, then you might be more likely to stop. But if it's like 3 a.m. and you're on a rural road and there's not a car or a light in sight, then it's like that stop sign's gonna have no effect on your behavior. So the stop sign itself might have some of that context here. But really, like, we just want to think about like these rules that, like, what are the contingencies that we're thinking about that actually control behavior. Is really what we want to think about with rule-governed behavior. So we talked about this here, where it's like it doesn't have to actually contact the consequences to control the behavior. And then rules, the thing that's fancy about rules is that rules can describe consequences that are far delayed, but still be effective on behavior. So think about it, like, there's a rule that's like, if I go take out a bunch of loans, sit through an ABA master's program, acquire 2,000 supervision hours, study for this test, and then pass it, then I get 4 fancy letters after my name. So if you look at this rule, it's like, oof, that's like not a whole lot of reinforcement going on here for this behavior, but yet here we all are studying for this exam, and we've all been through this process. I'm a BCBA myself. I don't know if I mentioned that, but hopefully that we got through already. So I know what you guys are going through. But this rule is still effective for us because we really desire our work and we really like behavior analysis. So that's why we're all doing this. Okay, yeah, Natalie's asking about like rules and self-management. So if we think about like rules and self-management, like we can think about like performance management. So again, when we're setting like performance management, we want to do the same thing. It's like we want to set rules that are going to be effective, and to make them effective, that they have to describe consequences that are probable and powerful. Actually, most of the time, if you look at some of the OBM research, you might think like, oh, we should just reinforce with money all the time. And really, like, that's not the case. Like, money doesn't hurt. But most of the time, it's like goal setting is often enough to change performance in like a workplace environment. So this is just, I mean, same kind of things that we do for all of our clients and all of our goals, that we want to like clear objective goals. And set up our employees for success at their tasks. And then if we need to provide like some performance management, then again, we want to make these like powerful and effective. So like usually if you see like a PIP, like a performance improvement plan for, let's say an employee that hasn't been doing so well, it's say it's an RBT, for example, then we might have performance improvement plans and have like, have clear goals for them, to keep their job, essentially. So this might be like reach certain treatment integrity or IOA scores. Like complete the set out work for the day, or figure out a plan to do so. So whatever's going to be relevant for our clients, we'll write our goals in that kind of way. Yeah, Alyssa has a really good example here as well. So if we look at like the warning on like smoking cigarettes that cause cancer, so it's like if I smoke cigarettes, I will get cancer. But the thing is here is let's actually look at this rule. And we don't want to think about it as smoking cigarettes in general. We want to look at the consequence of smoking one cigarette. So, if you smoke one cigarette, are you likely to get cancer? No, absolutely not. One cigarette's not going to give you cancer. And then, is cancer a really bad effect? Yeah, cancer's bad. But one cigarette's really like, it's not going to give me cancer. It's fine, whatever. I'm not a cigarette smoker, but that's like kind of the mentality of a cigarette smoker. So what this describes is that it's a small but cumulative set of consequences for smoking one cigarette. It gets me like barely even inches me towards cancer. So this is an ineffective rule because it describes a consequence that is small but cumulative. Good. I'm glad we brought that example up. Thank you there, Alyssa. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. Jesse Hawkins is asking, as a radical behaviorist, what are your thoughts on self-management and the idea that one can increase your own likeliness of setting your own rules of producing a desired behavior? Yeah, I think that's a really interesting concept. Thanks for asking that question, Jesse. So we'll ask, Jesse's question about self-management, and is essentially to rephrase here is like, what is the radical behaviorist perspective of self-management and changing one's own behavior? So to talk about this, I mean, we'll talk to the man. We'll talk about the word from the man himself, Skinner. So Skinner describes self-management as engaging in the behavior, in a behavior to make the frequency of another behavior more or less likely. So some examples of this might be like, if you set an alarm clock, that's an example of self-management. So I'm setting this tool so I get more likely to get up at this certain time. More examples here. Let's say you like leave a sticky note on your door to grab something. Absolutely. You could be goal setting as a form of self-management as well. Goal setting and tracking. So that's something that it's a behavior that we're doing to make the frequency of another behavior more likely. So for me, like, I've been tracking my calorie deficit recently, and it's been really helpful for like increasing the amount of calories that I burn and decreasing the amount of calories that I consume. So even just goal setting and tracking, again, like, I don't think it's a power to be underestimated at all. Really good discussion here.